Hey.
Hello. We are joining you guys early, a little bit early. We actually got on like an hour early and then realized
we thought we were on at 5:45.
It was 6:45.
But it was 6:45. So,
but better early than late.
Yes.
And since we were here and ready to go, and since the lovely Corpse Paint ladies had finished early, we figured that maybe we would start early. But we'll chat and fill some time. Hello. Yeah. The Corpse Paint was really fun. It's always good to see that.
we were nibbling on Halloween candy and corpse paint, so it was a good vibe.
Yeah, the best vibe.
Yes, best vibe. So what are we doing today?
Let's see.
I can
switch the camera so
Hello.
the folks can see.
Yes, I will switch to our overhead camera so folks can see.
We have 2 treats for you guys this time for our EGL Treats Sweet Hereafter theme we're going with this time. So we have funeral biscuit cookies, and Allegra will tell you more about that. And we also have mini coffin cake.
Ta-da! Remember, if you have a fish allergy, you also have a bug allergy. That is the key lesson. So that's the key takeaway from the Corpse Paint panel is what I've gathered is if you're allergic to shellfish, you are probably also allergic to bugs.
Right.
So no cricket flour for you. Sorry. It's all wheat flour for you.
Yeah. Should we want to switch to dual? Maybe we can talk about the
Yes.
funeral cameras. Funeral cameras.
Funeral cameras?
No, funeral biscuits.
We can talk about the biscuits. Yeah. So
we have these Victorian funeral biscuits. This was something that actually there's a local historical house really close to us that maybe 2 Halloweens ago we went and they had the whole house set up for a tour with Victorian funeral mourning practices as like the special focus of the house.
Yeah.
And it was really cool when we got to the kitchen of the house. They started telling us about funeral biscuits, which we already knew a little bit about. But what was really special was after they gave us some background history on it, they actually went, "Oh, here you go," and they handed us the cookies.
They gave us some biscuits.
And we thought, like, "Wow, what? We could take this home? That's really special. This is really cool."
Yeah.
So this is recreating a little bit of that special memory from that.
They had the whole house like set up as if someone had passed away. Like they had the clocks stopped at the time of death. They had the mirrors covered up. They had all that like Victorian
banners outside.
Yeah, they had all those sort of Victorian superstition-y type stuff going on. And it was really cool. And I hope they do it again some years so we go back.
Yeah, it would be great. Yes. But what was really fun was when I was looking for recipes, I was thinking maybe we'll use a shortbread cookie or approximation. Historically speaking, like a lot of things, cooking was really regional at the time. So there was a practice that was widespread of giving funeral biscuits as an invitation or to let someone know that someone had passed. But because it was regional and everyone had their own take on things, there's actually a lot of different cookies that could be funeral biscuits.
Probably whatever spice was most
abundant
in the region.
Whatever cookie was kind of like the most popular
at the time
in the region. But this recipe is actually from Sydney Living Museums, which I thought was really cool. I found this. They are a museum that does a lot of recreation and interactive things. And they had this recipe that they had recreated of an Australian funeral biscuit cookie, a spiced shortbread cookies.
Sorry, that's fine. I was just closing the other Twitch tab so that it wouldn't two audios happening.
Yeah.
Continue.
So they have this recreation. So it's really cool that this is like something that's based in actual history from the area. So in Sydney, what you would have had would have been something similar to this. Delicate shortbread cookie, really heavy on the spices, like a lot of cardamom and a lot of caraway.
I have a whole slide with
when we looked at this recipe, we were like, "Oh, that looks great. Let's do it." And then we made it for the first time as a run through, and we were like, "Wow, that's a lot of spices."
Yeah, once we had made the dough, we weren't sure if we were gonna like it because it smelled really
It was
strong.
really pungent, but it's delicious. It's really good.
It's very good. Yeah.
And do you want to pull up stuff?
Sure. The taste doesn't. The the dough smells really strong, but after it's baked, it
mellows out.
It's very
really
it
nice.
turns out to be very pleasant. We have a few comments here. Hopefully there are no fish or bugs in these sweets.
No,
there aren't any, although I will say there is always a certain amount of bugs that you get in wheat flour just from harvesting.
Yes, but that's regulated and controlled
by
the FDA.
But an FDA approved amount of bugs in these treats.
Yes. Oh dear.
Fun fact, covering mirrors during the mourning period, Shiva, is a Jewish practice as well.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I will pull up the slideshow and we can talk about so we have our coffin cake, and we have the shortbread biscuits, yes, and our next slide, we have the ingredients. We want to go through those.
We'll come back to
We'll come back to the ingredients. Okay.
And then we'll jump in.
We have tools. Okay, so a brief history of funeral biscuits, which I don't have the other camera open right now, but that's fine.
That's fine. We'll
model
it up.
Can model the cookies. So I'll go ahead and it's a bit text heavy, but I'll go ahead and read it for you guys. So it's thought, although obviously this is a long time ago, so there's not really a way to prove this, but during the prehistoric period, there was the custom of partaking in a small part of the corpse before burial in the hopes that you would, have the deceased person become a part of you, or to get their good traits through eating them, which is a pretty common practice across a lot of different cultures historically. And so that custom slowly morphed into corpse-free baked goods like small cakes or cookies.
Yeah.
And these were often flavored with very strong spices like molasses, ginger, cardamom, caraway, very strong spices, and they were often imprinted with motifs. Our motif we have is a cross with a little rose, which is actually a baptism cookie cutter.
This is actually a fondant cookie cutter. This is us once again appropriating,
repurposing
religious things
for
purposes.
For Gothic Lita purposes. I believe it is a baptism fondant press. Yes. We will read
your comments.
Yes, we're just going back to the comments. That's fine. Let's see, where are we? And the spices, along with other things like giant bouquets of flowers and candles, were used to cover the smell of the decaying body, because this is before embalming was widely used, before cremation was also widely practiced. So we had to cover up the smell.
The other thing is, like, spices were expensive. They were something special, extravagant. It's a little something, sorry for your loss, but here's something to remember the person by, this little moment to sit and enjoy.
Yeah.
In this heavy time.
And before the Civil War, they were typically made in the home. But post-Civil War, because during the Civil War there were a lot of deaths, unfortunately, they became highly commercialized, and it turned into a big business. And they were often wrapped with the person's name. I have a little, I don't know if you can't really see the image very well, but it's actually an advertisement for a funeral cookie company. And I just thought it was really amusing that it just says, "Prepare to die" at the top. And I was like, that's so dumb. And you could have the person's name printed on them. You could either have, there's a very popular poem that I recreated on this one. I think it's a Bible verse talking about, people dying, that seemed to be a very popular poem pick. So I just decided to reuse it here.
And we have that printable if you guys want it for yourselves.
Yeah, we have this on our recipe sheet. They would often have the name of the deceased, what time they died, and a poem that they liked, wrapped nicely with a wax seal, and then the cookie, of course, on the inside.
Yeah. So these would be something that you could either get them at the funeral, or they might also be mailed out as an invitation.
Yes.
So you may open the mailbox.
Yeah. So
and
someone would,
that there's a surprise for
or
you.
someone would stop by your house and say, "Oh, someone passed away. Here's a cookie." It would be the invitation to whatever, the wake,
right?
What have you, or they would have them at the wake and they would share them, or possibly both. You could take one with you as you left. And during the Civil War period and after that, photography was still a very new-fangled thing. So a lot of people didn't have any photos of the deceased. So, and if you weren't maybe super close family, maybe the funeral wrapper was the only sort of memento you would have from the deceased. So that's another reason why the wrappers were added.
Yeah, something special, a little commemoration.
Yeah, to remember the deceased by.
Yeah, which I think is a really lovely practice.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
One of the funnier things that I found when I was researching this too was because the cookies were regional, you know, there would also be people getting used to or associating certain types of cookies with funeral biscuits.
Yeah.
And there was an advertisement from an Australian woman who had moved to the US in like the mid 1800s. And she was writing to this newspaper and she was like, "Hi, how do I politely tell my friends to stop serving me lady fingers? They're kind of bumming me out when I go over to their house because that's normally what I have for funerals." I think this is funny that there's still regional things like that that pop up here and there. Yeah. So I think, shall we jump into making some funeral biscuits?
Yes. So let me go back to our ingredients slide, shall we? So for your biscuits, you will need 125 grams or about 9 tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter at room temperature, which I'm going to go ahead and bring our ingredients over this way, which I'll switch the camera for you guys in just a second. Then you're going to need 60 grams or a quarter cup of castor sugar, which it's hard to find castor sugar in the States. It is a British thing, but you can just take some regular sugar and put it in your food processor.
That's what we did
to make the grain a bit finer.
Yeah, you just want something really fine, dissolves.
Yeah, it's like in between confectioner's sugar and granulated sugar. Then you're going to need 2 teaspoons of caraway seeds and 1.5 teaspoon of ground cardamom. You can find those at your local Safeway. Shouldn't be too exotic for Safeway.
I'm getting the smell of them coming up right now. It's so like floral and so spicy. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's a very distinct scent that smells. It's floral and also very.
It's very grandma's home and perfume combined.
Yes, it's very
comforting
kind
of
thing.
nice.
Yeah, it's comforting, like in a good way. Grandma's house in a good way. Quarter cup plus 1 tablespoon of rice flour. This is going to give them kind of a crispy, kind of light texture. That crumbly texture. Yeah. And then a pinch of salt. And let me go ahead and change the camera so we can see we have our ingredients here. We've got our butter, flour, rice flour, our spices, some salt, and our sugar. So, let's see, before we start, do we have any questions? Okay. I don't know if our comments
are updating.
Are frozen. I haven't seen any new comments, but okay. I don't know if Twitch is freaking out or not. But anyways, it says we're still live, so we'll carry on.
We will carry on.
So our first step is to cream our butter and spices together. I don't know if you should reload it because it might take us. Oh, still working.
Still working.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. All right, so into my KitchenAid, I'm going to take.
Thanks, Molly. I'm just fascinated.
Oh, great.
Good.
Come
with the fun facts.
I need a spatula. Very long. Thank you. I'm going to take my butter. I have 9 tablespoons of butter.
And this is softened.
This has been sitting out for most of the day. It's nice and soft. All right. Thank you. And then to that, I'm going to add my caraway seeds, which are very almost like fennel.
Yeah, they're like very similar to fennel.
They're more florally fennel.
It's as you can see, there's a generous amount.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. So we're gonna add those in, and then our cardamom.
Again, another generous amount
of cardamom. Don't be afraid of the spices. If you make this and you decide it's too spicy for your taste, obviously feel free to
tone it down.
Or if you already know that you're someone who's more sensitive to spice, then of course make it to your taste.
Yes. The nice thing about adding it with the butter here is that most spices, the flavor is oil or fat soluble. Mm-hmm. So when you cream it with the butter here, instead of just tossing it with the dry ingredients, you're really going to get like the full strength of flavor. It's like
blooming it basically, or
Mhm.
or putting it in tea basically. It's
Yeah.
great. It's delicious.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get those incorporated. It's like 30 seconds or so. Even less than 30 seconds. Oh, I didn't realize this started. I know we started early.
It's okay. We were just
Sorry, mortal
fun
world.
facts about biscuit cookies. You haven't missed any of the
No.
the hardcore baking.
No, we've only just begun. All right, so I've got my spices and my butter incorporated, and then to that I'm going to add my flour, rice flour, and salt.
Oh, the sugar first. Good cream it with the sugar.
Oh. All right, so sorry, scratch that. I'm gonna cream it with the sugar. I feel like I'm always like, no, you're not late. We started.
We were
early.
very early. It's not
We were
you.
very early. But that means we'll just have more time together.
Yes.
I'm going to cream it after I've incorporated the spices. I'm going to cream it with the sugar for another 30 seconds or so until it's incorporated.
The more you cream it, the lighter it's going to be. So this is also something you can kind of do based on your personal preferences.
Do you want to tell them about our journey with getting the texture of the cookies?
Oh yeah, this is a really easy recipe. Basically, any way you make it is great. But because we had this, let's see if I can get this on camera. We had this this fondant stamp that we really wanted to use. So I saw this and I was like, yeah, that's the EGL vibe. That's it. We really wanted the rose to stand out. So the first batch we made, it looked pretty good. And we thought, oh, let's give it one more try. Maybe we can make the dough a little stiffer, get the flour to stand out a little bit more. And somehow the second time we made it, the flour was less good.
Every attempt we made, our cookies got worse and worse.
They were all delicious. That's not the
worse,
problem. They weren't
but
just holding the stamp in the
yeah,
same
we really
way.
wanted a crisp definition on the flower and the cross motif. But honestly,
we would get like the flower would look great or the cross wouldn't, and then would just switch back and forth.
Because they have different depths. Like the cross, I don't know what the thinking behind this was, but like the cross goes all the way through, but then the flowers
it stops.
Don't, which is
I don't know. It's meant for fondant, not dough. So
interesting. I guess the I don't know. But which is I'm sure there's a reasoning for that in the fondant world, but it's not for the cookie world.
I'm not a fan of fondant, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, we don't believe in fondant in this house.
Molly says we are all hungry. Suden Verni. Oh, it's Suden Veri. I hope I said that right. The colder the dough is, the better. Well, yes, we are going to chill this. That was definitely our major takeaway from our experiments was, wow, we should have chilled this from the beginning.
Yeah. All right, and then I'm going to add, should I sift this? Nah. Okay. So now I'm going to add my all-purpose flour to my bowl. Very simple recipe. I'm going to add my rice flour and my salt. And then I'm going to beat that until it's just incorporated. And then we'll wrap it up into saran wrap, and then we'll put it in the fridge to chill.
Yep.
And it's that simple. It's a very simple sugar cookie. We're just adding spices.
Yeah, I won't steal your fetch.
Yes, I need that. Yeah, I understand that Elia Chan is very busy, but I'm also sad that there's no savory panel this time around.
Yes, but it looks like they've been up to very fun things.
Yes,
so
it looks like they're doing out in the world doing fun stuff. So that's good for them. But I'm thinking, what would be something to do? If anyone has ideas in the chat, what would you guys have liked to have seen for a savory panel?
What are the people going to do for their own spooky savory or any food things, really? Yes. What are your Halloween treats that you're doing? Marshmallow Fluff 95 just says, cookie.
Cookie, yes.
That's it.
So this dough is going to seem a little crumbly, but once you press it together, it should come together nicely. Out. Does this look good? I need to get approval.
This is the type of cookie dough where you probably want to put it out and knead it together a little bit.
Okay, so I will do that. I just did that on here?
Yes, just right on it, it's fine.
Ori is the pastry chef of the family, so I don't want to do anything without permission.
She knocks herself more than she should. She's got quite a bit of baking experience herself.
All right. So here is my dough that I'm going to bring together by hand. Let me take my. We're wearing matching Niente glass coffin rings today. Could you grab me some plastic wrap, please?
Yes, I can.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear any funny noises, that's our dog.
That's our
Floating in the
dog.
background.
He's just
hanging out there.
He's hanging out.
Just looking for low to the
Crumbs.
ground, hanging out.
Doggo camp. Yes,
Okay.
we'll
show
show
you
the dog. Right now we have everything plugged in. OMG, he has spoke. Can you guys see him? Can you see?
Yes, I can see a little bit of Marsh just hanging out.
There he is. He's got little devil wings.
He's just waiting for
He's
any
just
sort of
waiting.
cookie or anything.
He has drag. Yeah,
to
he's just
hit the ground.
waiting for a handout. I see him. Yes, there he is. Well, he's being a good boy. He's not barking.
Yeah, you're being a good boy.
He's being a good boy. If we tell him that too much, he'll start screaming. Be like, yes, I'm very good. Please acknowledge me and how good I am.
He tells him, goes, "Oh, gee, puppy, what is his name? His name is Marshall."
Marshall.
Oh yeah, the dough looks great.
Yeah. I'm going to transfer this.
You know, let me take my ring off too. It's probably easiest. If you find that your dough is a little dry, don't worry about it. We're going to kind of press it together as we roll them out. So I'm just going to transfer this by the handful and press it together on top of the plastic wrap.
And the butter will continue to hydrate the dough as it sits. So don't worry if it's still looking crumbly on your end.
Yeah. It's truly a very forgiving dough.
Yeah.
Ori McCuff is, "Oh, gee, love you, Marshall." Yeah, Marshy is real cute. Everyone loves Marsh. We go on walks and it's just, hello.
Yes, he has lots of fans around the
apartment
building. Yes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move this.
Against my hands here.
This somewhere. We have a very small kitchen situation, so it's every time we do these channels, it's just like, what can I pile this on top of?
Every surface is used.
Every surface is used, and at the end, it's like everything looks beautiful, and then you turn around, and it's just a pile of forbidden of sins.
They don't eat them in the dark secrets.
They don't need to know. All right, so here's our beautiful dough. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the. I'm gonna say throw. I will delicately place it in the fridge. So never forget that one episode. I think it was one of the earliest seasons of Great British Bake Off, where one of the contestants was like, "I'm just gonna slap together. I mean, lovingly bake this pie."
Okay, so while that's chilling, we're gonna get started on our buttercream, or actually before the buttercream, I should say. So we're gonna be showing you guys how to make the cookies, and we're gonna be showing you how to make the buttercream and also a ganache.
Move the camera towards the stove.
Yeah, well, why don't we switch it to the dual cam first again? CS.
Slaps can be loving.
Yes, slaps can be
I mean,
so we're just going to be showing you guys the buttercream and ganache, basically focusing on how to decorate your coffin cake. I should say, Allegra found this fantastic Wilton pan this year, which was just perfect as soon as she saw it.
It's Nordic ware.
It's Nordic ware, is it? Oh, well, there you
Nordic
go.
ware.
She would know. She bought it. She surprised me.
I found it at Joann's, just like, I found this one and then like a bigger sized coffin. Like the only ones left on the shelf. And I was like, "You're coming home with me."
Yeah, she was like, "Do we need the small one or the big one?" No, the answer is both. And she was right. So we went ahead and baked our favorite Miette chocolate cake recipe in this already in advance. But we also have a stencil in the recipe. So you can make your own cake, whatever recipe you like, or a box mix. It's all good.
And they don't even have to be coffin shaped. I looked to see if I could link online to a place to buy these, and I have not. I saw that being sold, like one of them on Poshmark for like twice the price.
You know, sometimes they sell things only in store, especially with seasonal stuff.
Yeah. They did have a tombstone one.
Nice.
That was cute, but I couldn't find. I wanted to be able to link to the molds for you guys, but I couldn't find a place to buy those. But yes, keep an eye out for them. I did see them at Joann's. I don't know if it was like a very limited supply because they're the only ones I saw. And that was like in like early September, so like I got really lucky.
I know her Halloween decorations are earlier and earlier every year.
Yeah. So,
but either way, so we just made our favorite cake recipe. Please use your own. And if you don't have a coffin mold, just make it in whatever square shape is probably easiest, and just stencil and cut it out. With the coffin shape, it's pretty easy. It's like all straight lines.
it's all straight lines. Yeah.
Nothing you have to majorly worry about. So I'm going to set aside this
Amazing.
cake.
Both.
Yeah.
Shall I show you guys the bigger pan? So you can experience the bigger pan.
You're going to have trouble with those eyeballs.
Oh no, the eyeballs.
We strung up these eyeballs over the door, and I really should have thought about the fact that we would maybe move in and out of this. But yes, it is. And in the meantime, I am going to move this camera so you guys can see the stove. Okay, here we are. Yes, because believe it or not, our buttercream is going to start out on the stove. It's an experience. Don't worry about it.
We're fine. Don't worry about it. Nothing's happening back here. It's fine. So yeah. So here's the big boy pan. Where are we? Here we are.
Yes.
And it has a skull. It has a
little
skeleton inside
skeleton.
of it, which is really cute.
Yeah.
It also has. I really like that it has this sort of definition on the side, which makes it really easy to sort of frost the top part of it if you want to like choose to cover up the skeleton.
Yes. There's a little secret for you. That's the route we're going.
Sorry. All right. So here's the big one. Anyways, please continue here.
So for our Earl Grey buttercream, we have this milk. Oh, you know what? Let me grab this milk that we have been steeping overnight with this delicious chocolate Earl Grey. We had a small sample of this, and we thought, oh, that would be nice to try it. And then we steeped it in our milk, and we're like, oh no, that's really good. We're definitely going this route.
Well, we should also mention that what was it? What event was it?
Oh, we got a thing of David's tea from the Bay Area K team. It was really sweet. They sent us a sample box.
It's because we won the Valentine's Day quiz show.
The trivia show.
The trivia show,
Yeah, that was really sweet. Thank you so much for sending that to us.
Yeah, so they sent us a little gift card for David's tea, and so we picked out a spring sampler of teas, and this was one of the teas in it, and we thought it would make a really great sort of infusion for a buttercream.
Yes, and so we have come up with
so we're it's a continuous circle, you know.
Yes,
Barricades feeding us and we're feeding them.
That's a great way of putting it. So what we did was we made this milk tea basically. So we heated up our milk just to warm. And then we added 2 teaspoons of our tea straight into it and just let it sit overnight and chill in the fridge. So I'm going to strain the teas out of this straight into this pan.
I suppose all skeletons start off as secret skeletons. Yeah, I mean,
oh my god,
how do you know that you have a skeleton? You've never seen it.
That's probably one of the best sentences I've heard all year. Thank you very much for that.
One of my favorite Tumblr posts back in the day was like, I'm shivering, my skeleton's gonna hatch. And I was like, oh my gosh, no.
Cursed things, you said?
Cursed things. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just take that. Thank you so much. So this is one of my favorite recipes, and I think a really interesting recipe. Yeah. So we have our tea milk, and I'm also getting here, we have flour, and I have sugar and a little pinch of salt. So this is an ermine frosting, which is the nicer sounding name because otherwise people call it a flour frosting. Yeah. But it's basically, we're going to make a eggless pudding with this milk tea that we have. And if you saw Rosé Foreco
Chantel with Rosé Franco did a lavender creme brulee video a while back. It was really fun, where they showed you how to steep the lavender in the milk. This is the same sort of concept. I love this. Oh, is it not? Oh wow! Ooh, the lighting.
Budget. The budget has increased. Oh my god. Okay.
What was I going to say? Oh yes. So the reason I love this really old school style of buttercream is one, because it's using milk or whatever dairy milk, non-dairy milk, sorry, that you want to use in place of. You can steep things in it, and you can make really awesome flavors just from letting things sit in your milk overnight. It's a really easy way to get new, interesting flavors. If there's something you really love, you can just toss it in the milk.
It always just conceives in my brain as like a sweet roux.
Yes.
Instead of a savory roux. It's like you're making a roux, but then you're taking it sweet instead of savory.
Yes, and you guys will see. But the other thing I love about this buttercream recipe is, unlike a lot of other buttercreams, it's not based in egg. So it's not based on a meringue. It's structured in the combination of the milk and the flour. And the great thing about that is it's really easy to adapt this to a vegan recipe, a gluten-free recipe. All you have to do is switch out your flour for a different starch, whatever your preference is for gluten-free. Switch out your milk for your own preferred milk. Or do a combination thereof if you want to do gluten-free and vegan and still get a really great buttercream.
Yeah.
So I really love this recipe. So,
and I also like how it's much, ironically, you'd think flour would make it heavier, but it turns into a very light, fluffy buttercream when you still get a really nice richness from the dairy that's going on, but you don't feel like it's overpowering your cake. Especially if we're doing a small cake in this instance too. So I in my opinion, I feel like it suits a smaller cake. It doesn't overpower the cake as much.
Yeah. So I have the milk in the pan here. I'm doing this in a pan because it's going to heat up faster. You can do this in a pot. I'm just impatient. Honestly, I think it's easier to whisk this. One of the key things to this is whisking your flour into your milk while it's still hot and doing your best to disperse your flour into this and make sure that you don't get any lumps. But to be doubly sure, we are going to sift this after we fry this. So,
already.
Yes, thank you so much.
We shall strain it.
That sounds really yummy. It is really yummy.
It's a great recipe.
I think you made me a Valentine's Day cake with this buttercream as well a couple years ago. It was really good.
It was one of those like secret mousse. It had like a heart-shaped mousse like center throughout it. It was very good.
That was a good one.
Yeah. It was a great cake.
So what we're going for here is we're going to keep whisking this. Don't stop whisking this. You have to keep whisking this and just torch your milk.
Yeah.
We are going to keep whisking this until we start to see some texture on the bottom here. When you start to see trails or little clumps of your milk and flour starting to set, starting to make that pudding texture, you can then take it off the heat because it's going to heat pretty fast. And you'll know your stove best, but ours stays really hot. So once I see that, I'm going to take it off and let it finish and come together. But still whisking the whole time.
Yes. Never
Not
stop
whisking.
That's the key here.
Never not whisking.
Whisk is your friend, strain is your friend.
Chantel's gonna be so happy you shouted them out. They love you all so much. Oh, we love them
We love
too.
Chantel too.
We should collab sometime.
Yes, we
Hit us
should.
up. Call me. Leave me. If you want to be true.
So yeah, so we have the gluten-free and vegan versions of this recipe. Also up for those special dietary.
And those
preferences.
both use this same method. So
Yeah, exactly the same method, just different
you
ingredients.
swap out your ingredients and you should get to there.
And they are slightly different quantities of ingredients. So
Yes. So keep
you
that
be
in
sure
mind.
to read the right things.
Yes.
So we are going to make this eggless pudding, as I like to call it. And then once we have it at the right consistency, we are going to add in our sugar and our salt. Allegra's down here playing with it all.
He's cleaning up cookie dough.
Yeah, he's helping.
He's helping.
Okay, this is just starting to get thicker. You'll see it starts to slow down a bit. That's your first sign when you're moving it and you're not seeing it move as quickly around. It's going to heat up from the center out. So make sure you're going center out. Oh yeah, that's starting to thicken. And it will thicken fast. So, see if you guys can see this. that I'm getting where you can see the trails of the whisk behind. I'm going to stop here.
It looks like Alfredo sauce.
It does, yes. So you can see you don't need it to keep
It does not smell like Alfredo sauce. But yeah, so ooh, it's really
and it will come together really quickly. So you want to keep whisking it until you have a very even consistency, because it'll probably be runnier around the edges. So really whisk it, really work it in. And I really love the flecks from the tea. I think it's so pretty, but yes, it does also make it look like Alfredo sauce. Okay, so before we strain this, we have this nice thickened mixture. We're going to add our salt and also our sugar. And this is different from other buttercreams too, because we're actually melting the sugar here. And that is part of what makes this so light. And you're going to see your consistency loosen up a lot too with that sugar melting in. So don't worry about it. So get that all combined. And voila, you have your base here. And listen, once you know how to do this, then you can also do an even better, in my opinion, a step up buttercream. Learn how to make pastry cream, which is really not far off from this. And then you can do German buttercream, which is pastry cream and butter mixed together and whipped until it's light. And I gotta tell you, that's the height of decadence. But I love this for being able to infuse flavors. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and strain this. So you guys can see there's a few little lumps. I'm gonna get rid of those. Don't want it in our buttercream. We're gonna strain this, and you want to cool it until it's around room temperature at least. But even the cooler than that, if you have patience, is good. But we have one that we chilled earlier and pulled out. So use the magic of TV to move the sound. There we go. Ta-da!
And here's our finished pastry cream.
It's eggless pudding. Eggless pudding. Yeah. So, grab the cool one. Oh, I have it here. Oh, I pulled that. Never mind. And we also, let me move this back up.
I don't know if you guys can see our theme for the day. Is that let me change it to the. Is that I have she's bitten me and I'm slowly bleeding out.
Yeah, this awesome choker from Wax Poetic Shop.
Mm-hmm.
She posted it in her stories, and I was like, well, I guess I would like that.
Well, yes, I would. I shall purchase one. Yes,
such a fun design. Really, really cool.
I was like, OMG, I was about to ask. Thank you.
It's so fun. I really like it.
Yeah. This is an extension of our non-vampire look that we did
for the fashion walk.
For the fashion walk, yes, which the people will see.
So we have softened butter ready to go, and we also have our cooled eggless pudding or milk
Through the
tea
magic
pudding.
of television, we have already cooled pastry cream.
I'm gonna take my plastic wrap off the top here.
And if you put your plastic wrap so it's sitting directly on the pastry, then you won't get a skin, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Should I do that to the other one?
Oh no, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's not going to sit there for that long. And the other thing we have is vanilla. And let me grab a pattern for the butter here. So, oh, that's
when?
I'm thinking.
When?
Okay, so honestly, I love this recipe because you can get so much flavor in, but it's really not difficult. So you saw how easy it was to make your delicious little paste here. And then all we're going to do is cream this butter until it's smooth and together, add our vanilla, and then slowly add in this eggless pudding. Yeah, this milk tea pudding. So let's go ahead and do that. It's really light, really fluffy. So just getting that all smooth together. going to put that vanilla right in there. That swelling together. I know, the smell of the spices and the vanilla and the milk tea, these go so well together.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Yeah. We had some of this tea actually just prepared one evening, and then we were snacking on our trial biscuit cookies. They were really good together.
They're also really good with rose tea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So cardamom and rose is like one of my favorite flavor combinations. So we had some previous trial biscuits with some rose tea together one evening, sitting out on the patio. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, rose and cardamom are very popular flavor combinations in Central Asian cooking. So I mean, yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah. We went to one local sweet shop called Bon Mange in Hayward. If you're in that area, please go to Bon Mange. It's delicious.
Very great.
And they had a traditional Afghan dessert, and it was rice noodles and rose ice cream, and they had made a cardamom ice cream as well. And the owner came by and asked, he's like, "How's the cardamom ice cream?" And we were like, "It's fantastic." He was like, "Oh, I just made it for the first time today." And we were like, "What?"
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, it's just something that I do at home, but I was thinking people might like it."
And we were like,
"It's so good."
We were like, "Bro, it's so good."
So with this buttercream, you want to add just a few teaspoons at a time of your pudding.
So incorporate
smoothly. Yeah, smoothly and slowly. What you're doing here is making an emulsion. So if you add it all at once, you might get a clumpier looking buttercream, which, truth be told, is not the end of the world.
It'll taste the same. It just won't look as nice.
We will give you some buttercream hacks, because buttercream was one of those things I was obsessed with when I was a wee teenager, just getting into baking. And there's a lot of unfortunate times looking back, and I was like, that was perfectly salvageable buttercream if I only knew what to do.
Yeah.
So we'll add this a little bit at a time. More often than not, buttercream is salvageable. There's things you can do.
You can whip it more, you can chill it, you can add something to it.
Honestly, mostly it's just continue to mix it or heat it up a little bit.
Yeah. More butter, yes.
More butter.
Always more butter. Yes, I remember growing up, my mom would be looking at dessert recipe and she'll go, "Well, this has 2 sticks of butter in it, so it should probably taste good." And it's honestly, it's not a faulty logic.
Another yeah, I think this will be fine. So let's see, I'll stop here. So when you're partway through, you may see kind of like this curdle looking texture. That is totally fine. That is nothing wrong with your buttercream, how you're doing it. You just gotta keep adding it and keep mixing it. I remember that was one of the things I used to get so frustrated about, making buttercream in the early days. I'd be like, "Why is it chunky? This is wrong." And I'd throw it out. But no, that's just the natural part of emulsion coming through that middle stage. It just needs a little more love. Be patient.
Wait a minute. Sue Denbury says there's an Indian perfume house called Solstice Scents that makes a brown sugar cardamom rose perfume oil. That's amazing.
That sounds wonderful.
I need that. I bought some rose oil a few days ago at a local garden. That smells really delicious. Nice. But I'm like, this, I would love to smell like a Central Asian dessert. That sounds great. Solstice Scents. I'll have to let me screen cap this. Okay, great. Check them up later. Strawberry Jam Donut says my mom's like that too, in reference to the amount of butter. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. More butter, more better, as they say.
I'll just take your time, be patient. Oh, actually, maybe you would also grab the color and toothpicks. We can have that for the next stage.
Yes. So in order to get our kind of grayish purple color, we're going to be using some black and some violet food coloring.
Yes.
And you can make whatever color you want. Getting solid black on any kind of frosting is, unless you get it pre-made, it's very difficult.
Or unless you're starting with something that's
dark. Like if you have a dark chocolate ganache and then you add black to that, you'll get a really nice color. But for this purpose, we're going to be doing a sort of tombstone grayish purple kind of color.
That's a good. You actually want to pull up the inspiration.
Oh
where
yes,
this idea
oh
came
yes.
from in
We
the
should
first place.
we should talk about that. So our inspiration for this cake actually comes from this Kira Imai Angelic Pretty postcard from Halloween 2017. As you can see, there is this adorable little coffin cake.
Oh, you highlighted it. That's awesome.
Yes, I
love
put a
that.
little frame around it so people could
So the
see.
people know.
It would be fun someday to try and recreate the other biscuits and things in this.
I
But
know they're
for
so cute.
today, we thought, okay, well, if we're gonna frosting a cake and then piping on a cookie is gonna be two different kind of icing adventures. So we're just pick one. So we decided to go for the cake as we already have the funeral biscuits. Super cute. And so we had thought about it. We spent like an evening trying to figure out what color we wanted to do.
Right.
We thought about sort of a reddish purple color or maybe like just straight up gray, but then we ended up settling on the purple color. You can say there.
Oh, I was gonna say we saw so many versions of this image on the internet in slightly different
In
tones
different-
of color.
Different filters because it's a postcard. So when people had photographed the postcard, whatever lighting that they had going on, sort of changed the color quality of the image. So we were eventually we were just like, I don't know, this purple's cool. So
Well,
here.
and then we decided to do the Earl Grey flavor, and we're like, great, it is. It's decided.
Yep. So there's our inspiration from this photo card. Yes.
So I'm gonna get this one more combination with the paddle. And then another fun fact, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the paddle that you have in your stand mixer is actually already the perfect shape for scraping down the sides. So I highly recommend using that. Now I'm gonna scrape off the paddle and now switch to a whisk attachment to really get it to all come together. Okay, so once again, I'll lift the bowl. You have this right now. It looks curdly. That is fine. You're not doing anything wrong. Do not worry. Do not fret. The other thing the whisk is going to do for us is really emulsify the whole thing together. So the thing with buttercream is really heating it enough to get a good emulsion and having it at the right temperature that your butter is cooperating with you. So I'm going to show you that just from turning the speed up higher, it's already going to get smoother and come together nicely. But I also think my butter might be a little bit cold. So you can see here, it's starting to come together. It's starting to get some body and movement to it. But I have this microwave-safe bowl, so I'm going to pop it into the microwave. That is honestly the truest buttercream.
Dark deeds.
And not for too long. I'm just going to get it in there for like 10 seconds.
It was
don't
on the
melt it.
chillier side today, so that makes sense. Okay, I say it's chilly. It's like 60 degrees outside. Which
It's
for
perfect
me, for me, it's freaking cold. And I say that as a Californian who grew up in the East Bay, which is notoriously one of the cooler areas of California. Everyone thinks California is like super hot, but like in the San Francisco in summertime, it's like 50 degrees. I run extremely cold all the time. I have a very hard time regulating my own body temperature. This one loves it when it's freezing, and
great.
I'm gonna be here in my weighted blanket wearing 2 pairs of socks and
We trade powers for the season.
Yes.
You know, in summer, she's at her height. In winter, I'm at my height. Only
Yeah.
one of us can
85 and above is like
decided.
perfect. Yeah, if we were both powerful at the same time of the year,
Watch out.
it would be over for everybody. 60 degrees is weather. Yes, that's correct. I did wear a sweater for outside for like the first time yesterday to Costco.
So I give this,
Oh right, yeah, look at that.
2 10-second intervals in the microwave, and you can see it's already getting smoother. So I think that's
Smells so
perfect.
good.
I know. I don't want it to be any softer than that. You can leave it. I'm going to use the spatula. And now, I'm going to whip that some more.
I think this batch got even more strongly with the.
Oh yeah, I think we were a little generous with it, which is good.
I did put quite a bit of tea in it. And it has been steeping overnight, so it's strong.
All right.
Jamie says, whoops, I was going to say, man, I can't handle it. That, you know, everybody's different. If the whole human population could handle hot or cold, we would be in trouble. Or maybe we would be better off. I don't know. Yes.
So it's smooth now, but I want it to be fluffy, so I'm going to whip it more. All right, you guys, the transformation. Behold, the same clumpy buttercream is now a beautiful, smooth, luxurious buttercream. So if you have clumps, whisk it more. If the whisking does not work for you, lightly heat it.
Gently
Heat it. If you go too far and you make it into soup, that's also fine. Just put it in the microwave, put it in the refrigerator until it gets more firm and solid, and then you can go back to what you need.
Yes. Strawberry Jam Donut says, I prefer being a blanket gremlin over a sweat gremlin personally.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Same.
Yeah. I don't sweat that much, so I don't have that. I don't have that issue.
Have that
which is
problem.
not to be like I don't sweat, which is just like I like being
the
hot.
cold factor is worse for her.
The cold factor is worse for me. Like, yeah. But I imagine if I was a person who created more liquid, that's a terrible sentence. That's an awful sentence. I'm sorry, everybody. I would enjoy the heat less. Yeah. So I kept 3. Yeah, we have 2 blankets and then a weighted blanket on our bed right now. Sorry, please continue. I could just talk about how much I don't want cold. Well, it's hard because in the fall, if it's not cold, I feel like it's not right. But I don't like it.
Yes, this is.
Please continue. This is a baking show. Please continue. Blanket supremacy. Yeah, I do like. Anyways, please continue.
I was gonna say this is a really lovely like cream color from the tea already, which this to me is very classic Lolita. You made like a really beautiful vintage style cake with this.
And you could put some like rose petals in it or something.
Yeah, so
that
this is a gorgeous
so
color already from the tea. But we are gonna make it the great stone gray. So we're gonna go for it now, people.
Yeah. So no turning back now. I don't sweat either, but instead I just get sick. That's awful. Getting sick in the winter sucks, but getting sick in the summer is not it. Like at least if you're sick in the winter, you can have like hot tea and hot soup and stuff. When you're sick in the summer, you're just like, well,
that's you now.
Well, dang, it's not it. I mean, you can eat ice cream, I guess, but.
So I'm just going to use some toothpicks to add our color here. I'm going to start.
I was too powerful in the cold, so they had to nerf me by giving me hypothyroid.
Oh no!
Oh, yep.
God said only too much power.
God said it cannot have it all. OMG, I love cooking, especially desserts. Yes, we love desserts. You've come to the right place.
So I'm going to start with the purple and get a tone of purple that we like first, and then we'll dim it down with the black to the gray shade that we want.
And don't be shy with your color. It can take a lot of color. Should I bring our other cake back
for reference? And the other thing is really scrape down your sides so you know truly what color you're getting in your entire buttercream.
Yeah. Like your elbow there.
Yes. Okay. So that's pretty decent, but I'm going to add a little bit more. You want it to be slightly saturated on the purple because the black is going to tone everything down.
Yeah.
Be careful when you're using dark food coloring of what you're touching.
But this stuff doesn't stain nearly as bad as for our Ursa Major panel. The ube food coloring, like we had purple hands for a couple days afterwards.
It was a worthy sacrifice, though. That flavor is really good.
It's really good. Aria McCall, oh, you look so good. Thank you.
I had a lot of fun doing this. Okay, So
Strawberry jam donuts. Ooh, so I can make it blood red. Absolutely, you
Yeah.
can.
you can make it any color that you want.
You could even do this with like a brain mold and then make it like
that would
pinkish
be
red.
so
That would
fun.
be sweet. Anyways, yes.
This buttercream goes great with everything.
Mhm.
So we have this like let's see if you guys can see
Have a
it.
lavender.
Lavender. It looks more purple on our end. Lighting is kind of making it already gray.
Yeah, but
you want like a pastel lavender to begin with.
Mhm.
And now we add black because you'll come to the goth speaking channel.
tis the season. Go goth or go home.
Yes. So we're gonna.
Marsha, why are you
down
making weird faces at me?
He wants to be included.
What if we did an EGL treat that we made like dog or pet
Pet treats, that'd be cute.
That would be really fun.
All right, in goes the black coloring. Oh yeah. Oh yep, I think that's looking pretty good.
that's looking pretty good. Things whenever did says OMG, that cake is so cute. Thank you.
Oh.
This has been sitting in the fridge like all week, and I've had taken every
Great
fiber
self-restraint.
of my being to not eat it. So,
Okay,
but now we'll have like 3 that I can.
so you think you're more
black? Maybe a touch more black, I think. But we're getting there. I want to see a blood red one. Yeah, absolutely.
that would be really good. I think this would be really cute too if you did it as a red velvet cake on the inside, so you have the red when you cut into it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Also, just because I like red velvet cake.
I mean, red velvet cake is delicious. It doesn't. The red color doesn't add anything to the cake. It just looks good.
Oh, fun fact! If you want to do a cream cheese version of this, just replace some of your butter with cream cheese. Very, very light, very, very silky.
Yeah, that looks good. Now we're getting there.
All right. Get these colors and pick out of the way.
Oh, I will move our reference.
Can you move it to the finishing part? Yes. Just pick it up with the quality there.
I will very carefully.
Aw, it looks really good. Okay. Show the people the finished colors. Oh, I have one out already. But that'll be for later. Okay. Ta-da! A beautiful graveyard gray. And now, I will bring over. I'm going to do actually ganache first.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. No, frosting first. We have a cheat sheet here.
We have a
because I couldn't
we have a
remember
schedule
how we were doing
taped
this.
to the microwave right here. There's a lot happening.
Okay, let's get Coffin on the spatula here. Now I'm going to show you guys a piping trick in a second. That is one of the better things I've discovered this year for baking. Marsh has a little demon wing costume on. I think he's had enough. He wants to go back to being a dog.
Yeah, is that better?
Mm-hmm. So I have a basket style piping tip ready in this piping bag. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he's got a lot of feelings right now.
You have a lot of feelings. He's like, why are you guys standing in the kitchen instead of paying attention to me?
This is our first time doing a baking panel with him, so he's doing very good.
Hi, Lunch. Hi. It's you, my hi. Say hi. Say hi to the people.
I'll post a picture of him later so that people can see.
People can see his thing in all his glory.
Oh, you're a good boy. Yes, and you're getting. This is how much I love you, Mark. You're getting here all over my innocent world.
Sacrifices. See? Okay, so I have a cake spinner, as my brother calls it, but a cake stand in the professional world, and I'm going to take our little prepped coffin cake and put this guy down. So we are going to do the base coating right now, and then we're going to stick it in the freezer because this guy is little. So decorating it when it's frozen is going to make everything way more manageable.
So I don't have to worry if it gets bumped or anything like that at all.
what you'll see later that it's going to help the ganache go exactly where you want it to.
Yes,
It's
we're gonna
way
do
more
a
manageable.
drip ganache so it's cold the ganache, especially if it's a really short cake. So you want the ganache to set like in once it hits the cake immediately.
You have a limited amount of space, so make it
You have a
easy for yourself.
small window of opportunity.
Okay, so I'll show you guys. This was something really cool that I saw watching way too many baking videos on Instagram. So I have a basket tip here, which has this this weave or this little picket on it on one side, but it is smooth on the other. And I'm going to use that to make decorating this super duper easy.
This technique is really useful if you're really trying to keep your angles clean.
Yeah.
You'll see when she does it, but yeah.
So what I saw someone doing this for was keeping the frosting in between their cake layers like perfectly even, which I thought was amazing because I struggle with that sometimes and spending too much time like trying to get it perfect. So starting with the piping bag makes that so much easier.
Do you have any tips on cutting the cake to shape if we don't have a coffin mold? I think
Yes, I think if you do it slightly frozen, again, it's firmer. It's going to be easier for you to cut.
and it'll reduce the chance that it will break apart on you.
Yeah. And for us, we're not going to cut this little cake in half because it's already, let's see,
It's really short.
it's already short. To us, it's the perfect amount of cake to buttercream
A
as it
thicker
is.
cake, then you can definitely do a layer of buttercream in between. But
Yeah, but otherwise, I'd say do it frozen, keep it on the shorter side, just do one layer. That's like the easiest, friendliest way.
and make sure to use a serrated knife when you're cutting your cake.
Yes.
Not a non-serrated. You gotta use a serrated knife. It's really gonna help you. Yes, and Barry graciously linked to our Google Drive doc, which has the recipe and has the dimensions of the coffin of this coffin.
This particular
if you want to make your coffin a different shape,
you do you.
you do you. This was just our reference point. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start. So I'm doing this with the flat side facing out. I'm just going to pipe right on the bottom here, close and straight.
He's just sitting on the floor right here.
Yeah,
You
he's
can't really
having
see him.
time.
He's just
You can see
supervising.
a peek of him here. He's just hanging out.
He just wants to be involved.
If I had a bigger piping tip for this basket style, I would use it, but I only have the small one, so I'm going to do double layers. But it just makes these sharp angles so easy. Honestly, the first time I did it for this coffin cake, I was like, wow, that I should have been doing this for cakes always. I know some people have like jumbo size versions of these, and they always use them on their cakes. But somehow I've forgotten about it over the years because not that many people did it when I was learning about cakes. But I think it's perfect for the sharp angles of this coffin. And this buttercream is so
Bury me
sweet.
in that to lyrical art. I mean, same.
Nice.
Yeah, we're gonna eat cake and watch the kawaii or kawaii
Kawaii. It's
panel
always one of our
after
favorites.
this.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be
it's
good.
definitely a highlight for us. So that's gonna be, and we can make some more tea.
We'll have a nice gentle time.
We'll have a nice evening. Just eat cake and talk smack about dresses.
Yes, exactly. So the other thing I love about this is like if you are kind of scared about putting frosting on a cake, this makes it so easy, honestly. I think it's he's in the low of the ground. He's a low rider dog.
He's a low rider.
Okay, so I've just gone around the edges there. Nice even layer. And I'm going to do the same thing for the top, but just switch it so it's flat here. So keeping with the shape of the edges, keeping that nice crisp coffin shape.
Do you have any tips for people who maybe don't have this sort of piping tip?
If you don't have this sort of piping tip, go the classic frosting route, which is scoop or pipe a whole bunch in a pile, and then use tequila.
So gently work it over the
Also
edge.
to gently push it to the edges. Let it go over your edges, and then smooth it out. That's what I recommend. Keep going here. Gonna bury our little skeleton friend.
Yeah,
Our secret
bye.
skeleton. Only we know that you're real. Okay, so we got that going. And you don't really have to be very perfect with the top here because we're going to cover it in ganache anyways. So That's another fun bonus of doing this particular design is it really does not require perfection. So we've got top coming up there. You see we have some gaps on the side. I'm just going to go ahead and take the tip and horizontal and just fill that in.
This is a coffin cake and not a casket cake. Because coffins have the slants and caskets do not. I know that some people. I'm sure all of us, EGL people, goth EGL people in the chat know that, but some people don't.
So I'm just going to take my offset spatula now. Preferably a small one is going to make this cake size easier for you. Let me get a cup actually that I can put cleaned off on it. I missed a little spot right here.
No, he's going to leak out the bottom.
Oh no. Okay. So I'm just going to take this and just smooth the buttercream on the sides here. And I'm just going to take it on the long sides. I'm just smoothing where those seams were from the two portions. So I'm just going with the length of my offset and smoothing it out. Don't worry if you take some of it off because it's such a thin amount. Just scoop it back on. And just, this will be what you're doing if you are not packing it on, if you're just pushing it from the edges. Just gently smooth it on there. But again, we're going to be covering this with ganache, so it doesn't have to be perfect.
She says that, and she's going to make it perfect anyway.
It's very hard for me to fight my perfectionist nature. But so just be very gentle because it's a thin amount of buttercream.
Mary Kay says, I want like a natural burial, so I guess my cake could be like a cup of crumbled up cake as dirt. You could make like a dirt cake where you do, you know, some chocolate pudding with them like crumbled Oreos and like gummy worms in it and stuff like that. Yeah. Mud pie, absolutely. Yes, with worms, absolutely. Gotta have the worms.
The worms make it.
Gotta have the worms, yeah.
Okay, so I've got a little, I don't know if you guys can see it, just a little hole up here. So that's something you want to keep an eye for once you smooth the sides, is just make sure that the top and the bottom are really sealed in here. So I'm going to smooth that too. And now, it's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to go in for the top here. So I'm going to use my spatula, moving from the thinner end to the wider end, and just gently smooth that out. But we're going to cover it in ganache, so I'm not going to go crazy with it. Just making sure that there aren't any like, you know, valleys or like crazy buttercream level differences.
Worms and dirt, yes. I've heard dirt cake referenced in many different titles. Worms and dirt cake, mud pie, dirt cup.
Everyone likes it. No matter what it is.
I think a lot of people, it's like one of those very like,
it's fun. It's just fun.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's very like homemade kind of thing. Like it's not high end, so like every family has their own different name for it kind of thing. Kind of vibe is what I'm trying to say, yeah.
Okay, so we have this, and I'm going to pop this into the freezer. Is the next thing we're going to do with it. And then we will come back to cookies. No, we're going to do ganache. I'm still looking at the cheat sheet, sorry. Yes, but I am going to put this in the freezer, and here, if you could swap that buttercream into the other bag I have, just squeeze it on in. Ourselves ready for when we come back to the finer details.
Pipe a bag into another bag.
Yeah, that's my lazy
hacks.
Switch.
Work smarter, not harder. Mud pie is happiness, yes. I haven't had a mud pie in a long time, but they're delicious.
I know, they make me think of like summer camp really fun days as a kid.
Yes. And I this is a bit of fun fact about me is I run an international exchange Girl Scout troop, and we took our kids. Well, we go to Japan every 4 years or so, and we at camp we were in charge of making one of the meals for the kids for the Japanese Scouts, and we did a mud pie, and we had brought gummy worms from America, obviously from here for the mud pie because you gotta have the gummy worms, and apparently gummy worms or like candy worms shaped or candy shaped as worms is not a Japanese thing.
Yes.
And they were very like, what is this? It's candy. What? And they were all like intrigued and also mildly freaked out.
Horrified
Yes.
horrified at the same time. But yeah, I wouldn't really go for gummy maggots either, I would say. So on that level, I understand. And in the meantime here, frosting away.
No, it's okay. I'm just gonna pop this in the fridge so it doesn't get too warm while we do other things.
They don't have candy. Not that I've seen in Japan. I've not seen gummy worms. They have what's called it's called fettuccine. But it's shaped like
it's like
pasta.
shreds.
It's like shreds.
It's not haunted. I haven't, but I've not seen. I'm sure you can get them at like a niche market somewhere, but I haven't seen your regular supermarket. I have not seen gummy worms.
Yeah.
In Japan.
So I'm really going to quickly show you how to make the ganache with this buttercream, and we're going to set that aside too.
And then we'll come back to
And
cookies.
then we'll come back to the cookies. There's a reason we have the cheat sheet. Memory's not here right now.
No, we have a plan. It's just not in here. It's over there.
Yes, that's exactly it. So I have equal parts of chocolate and heavy cream. So that's what I'm going to start with. We're going to do this to consistency rather than to a particular amount of either ingredient. Let's start with equal amounts. I'm going to pop this cream into the microwave to heat it up, and then I'm going to pour it on top of our chocolate here. I'm using this really nice dark melting chocolate that I took from work because it was a leftover sample and it's really nice. But if you have another dark chocolate that you really like and it's a bar, just chop it up first before you use it.
You can use milk chocolate or white chocolate, but we're using dark because
Hashtag
spooky.
And you don't need your cream to be boiling, you just need it to be hot. Like simmering is the equivalent.
Gotta go to Japan and trade some gummy worms for wasp crackers. Wasp crackers?
Ooh, wasp crackers, please. Tell more about that.
Did you know that originally figs are from a wasp, and then it grows around the wasp, and then it makes a fig.
Wow.
I don't quote me on this, but I saw someone posting about it, so I did some research. But apparently, all the figs you get in the store and stuff are made through
Or not
not made that way. But apparently, there are certain types of figs or figs used to be a result of a reaction to a wasp situation.
That nature is crazy.
Nature do be wild, like cashews.
Oh gosh, cashews are crazy.
Cashews are if you want to go down a wild rabbit hole. People, how cashews? How do cashews work? How cashew?
Okay, so I poured that heavy cream on. I'm just gonna let it sit and melt that chocolate. And then I have the world's tiniest whisk, which was actually a joke gift someone gave me in culinary school. But I use this all the time. It's great. I love tiny whisk. I'm just gonna mix it together. So what we're looking for here is a consistency that you're comfortable working with, basically. Because it's such a small cake, the thinner you make the consistency, the more it's going to drip down. So you just have to decide for yourself, do you want all of your drips to be on the longer side? Make it something linear. Do you want more control over the length of the drip? Make a thicker ganache, add some more chocolate in, or otherwise just stick with your 1-to-1 ratio. And I'm going to start mixing this. And it's really just personal preference for consistency, and it's just going to be how much cream did you add and temperature. So that's why we're making it now, so we can set it aside and let it cool down to a consistency that you like.
We're on until 8:15. I was just double checking. That was like time's not. I don't know her.
So you can see how quickly that came together. Beautiful, smooth ganache. For me, this consistency, if I'm tilting it around the bowl here, it's a little thin. I want mine to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to add more chocolate. See what we have. chips. Scavenging what chocolate we have. Yes.
These are from our Ursa Major.
Oh yes, we use these for the.
Those are for the
crepe
crepes.
eyes.
Yes, the crepe eyes.
Now, if you use chips, it's going to take longer to melt, so just be aware of that.
They have a waxy coating, right?
Yeah, because they have more emulsifiers in them and stuff. Because the manufacturers want it to stay chip shaped for you.
Yeah, and you bake with it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is the fluid. So it's still warm right now. So do know that when you're making it, it's going to be a runnier consistency at a higher temperature than when it's cooler when you're going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So do know that what you're starting with, as it hot, it's going to thicken as it cools.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we have this nice body. It's still fluid, but you can see it's not so thin on the bottom of the cup anymore that it can coat it. So I'm going to say this is good, and I'm going to set it aside and let it cool while we get back to the cookies. Like I said, because
Do we want to use the older batch, or do we want to use the
I don't want to use it.
It's not the same. Rock solid.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because we're gonna work it together.
All right.
Put that there.
We're back with our cookies.
Oh, this freezer is empty.
Freezer keeps opening. We've got a visitor.
So we have our cookie dough, and we have one sheet pan lined ready on the side here, and we have another salt pat that we're going to use to roll
One
out.
to roll out and one to bake on. And we have our oven preheated to 305.
Yes, really low temperature for these cookies. Low, slow bake to get that tender shortbread. And again, another small implement, a little tiny
Spatula. And
spatula.
we've got
rolling pin.
our molds, or our cookie cutter, and then
And our assistant today
our assistant today is Pam. And what we're going to do is we're going to press in the design, and then we're going to go ahead and cut it out so we get a clean edge with this 3-inch cookie cutter. Yeah. And you can make these cookies in any size you want. So I'm going to attempt to pre-shape this so it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, and if it's coming out dry for you, you can just take it and knead it together with your hands. Your hands are going to warm up that butter and help the whole thing come together a little. This is a really forgiving dough, so don't be afraid to work it.
So while Ori's doing that, I'm going to prep my stamp with a bit of Pam.
And just a little tip, before you roll it, if you're doing this kneading, we can do that over the sink too.
Yes, that's good.
Do it in a round shape. If you make whatever shape that you're going for, is always a tip I have for rolling. If you're trying to end in a circle, start in a circle.
Yeah.
So there you go. Here.
Thank you. All right, so I've got my pre-greased. Just place it in the middle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it once over the top. And then since the outer design is a bit more fine, I'm going to roll a little more on the edges. Just a little bit on the edges.
Mm-hmm. Cookies and Cream says, give Pam a raise. Yes, Pam, you've gotten us through many times.
Honestly, yeah, Pam's the real MVP. Most value Pam.
Most value Pam. Oh, let me bring the offset back out for you.
Yes, I need it. All right, so now I've got this rolled out. We're gonna see how this turns out. Every time we use this stamp, every time it's different. All right, I'm gonna grab my offset and just wiggle in here. Oh, it's falling apart.
More delicate this time, huh?
Yeah, maybe we should use the other. There we go. So I can have super extra dough.
This pack of dough, I'm just gonna microwave it.
Yeah, this cookie rolls bad.
So if it's a little bit dry for you, you can do the kneading again with some softened butter and just work that
Or you can
together.
take the dough you previously made out of the fridge and use that instead. This together. I have to Google wasp crackers after this.
Yeah, wasp crackers.
Now I'm
That's
really-
an interesting
I've
word.
heard of like horse meat crackers. Maybe this will be a little bit better for me.
You want the other dough to be smooth.
Yeah.
When in doubt, have backup dough.
Shockingly for how simple these cookies are. They always seem to give us a hard time.
Mostly just with that imprint dough. Like we said, every cookie is good. Just getting that particular style.
And honestly, if you weren't stamping these, this would be fine.
Yes. Well, and I should say too, because our design is raised, it's more difficult. If you have a design or like
Just an imprint instead of
a piece of jewelry you're willing to use, you can just lay that on and then roll on top of it.
Mhm.
Indenting inwards is much easier than having a raised design.
Right.
There we go. It's a little one.
To do. This.
How's that one working out?
Let's see.
Experiencing it right now in the moment.
Not quite. I wonder.
Sure. I think it's just a little bit soft. But the cross motif looks great. You can see it even on the camera. It stands out well. Do be careful when you're picking these up. It can be a little bit difficult. Should I get a spatula maybe? I think a spatula would be easier for this.
If you'd like to reattempt with the other dough, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just a little soft. So I'm going to take some of this dough and some of the other dough and knead together to get the consistency we want. Hybrid dough. So if your dough comes out dry, just do what I'm doing now, but with butter, and just work it in.
Buttercream is so good.
She's back there snacking.
Yes. I'm better at eating things than baking things.
Honestly, we make a good team because I don't have the same energy these days to have the motivation to bake things, but Allegra really wants to bake things and to eat them. So then we end up baking together, and then that's the perfect meeting place of, let's actually do the thing rather than just thinking about it. So this still has some ham on it, so I'm just going to use that. Let's see, I think this
That might be
combination
That might
is
be
the
the winner.
winner. Yeah, so all these cookies are great, but for stamping purposes, just like the ganache and the buttercream, you want the right temperature and consistency. Let's see what we got. Yeah, I'm not telling, but I think that's good.
Yeah, that looks good.
And I always think too that it's not like it has to be perfect, because when people were making funeral biscuits, you know, they're in a period of mourning. They're making these things to give away to other people and let them know someone has passed. They're not thinking, I gotta make these the most perfect cookies ever to hand out, you know? Very originally a homemade thing that people were doing. A little EGL funeral biscuit. It's all toothsome. Well, thank you.
R.I.P. Super safe word.
R.I.P. Get rid of this little for a second. Oh, sorry. They're always dancing around each other in this kitchen.
Small yet mighty kitchen.
Let's see. Not bad.
This is us literally every time we make these cookies. We're like, how's the imprint gonna look? We know it's gonna taste good, but how's the imprint gonna look?
Looking at our time, I think we have one more cookie.
Yeah, just a couple more, and then we off.
So we can
We're staying on
get everything done.
This mold is gonna be.
Yeah, when I bought this mold, I was just like, "Oh, pretty design," and then we got it, and I was like, "Well, this is more challenging than I intended." But we're here, we're committed.
So we tried multiple different techniques in getting this mold to come out right. Which I think once you get the hang of it, it should be fine.
I don't think they all really were really good looking.
Yeah, I don't. I
Sorry,
we're telling this to ourselves. No, you're fine.
Remove the other one. On the consistency of my ganache is looking good. I'm going to stick it in the fridge. I want
Cookies. Nice. And then we can get these in the oven. Yes. Or how's it 10 minutes?
So these are going to bake for 20 minutes total.
Right.
So we're going to do 10 minutes, turn it around, and another 10 minutes. So slow and slow for that shortbread texture. Then we'll return to the
Remove.
Jamie Luna says, I just Googled funeral biscuits and stumbled across dead cakes.
Yes.
Nice.
I've heard of dead cakes, but do tell us more.
Yeah, I have to say that sounds like something that came up when I was doing research too, but I'm not quite sure what exactly all is going on there. Getting from the freezer. Okay, and I'm going to get our little display stand out. So the reason I froze this too is because it's really easy then to move it around onto whatever you want. So I recommend putting it on something for you to do the base decorating, and then wherever you want to present it, then move it there and do the finishing decoration right where you're presenting it. So much easier to move it if it's frozen. Got the buttercream. I'll leave that ganache in there. I'll pull it up already. Info on it, it's pretty fast. Huh.
Wow, even if the mystery continues, the mystery the plot begins.
So Allegra switched this buttercream into a star tip for me. So I'm just going to do this around the edges. We're going to decorate the bottom first, and then we're going to do the top. So let's see what you guys can see this. I'm going to do this starting on this end. What you want to do is press, stop, and pull back. Press, stop, and pull back. Since it's a small cake, try not to do too large. What you call them? I'm forgetting the name right now, but try not to put over large decorations or dollops here on them. And try your best. So see, I did the row along the bottom, and then I'm going to start here along this side to keep that coffin shape. And the thing with getting this is, again, pipe, stop, and then pull back. Pipe, stop, pull back. I think the thing a lot of people have a habit of doing is putting force on the bag the whole time that they're trying to pipe, and you end up with much bigger or less defined details than what you're going for. So we're just giving it a nice little trim right now.
Marshall Fluff says, I want cake now.
And we're doing our job.
Yes.
Doing
Tempting
what
the
we
people.
do. Also, just really fun being able to bust out doilies for this. Very grandma, very fun.
Doilies always good.
With our last doilies we impulse spot at Daiso, as is the story I think on every time we do one of these panels is, well, I bought this at Daiso, so now we're going to use it.
Yep.
But we had to go out of our way to restock for this panel because the doily really makes it.
We have to go to. Couldn't find doilies at. Where were we looking for doilies? They weren't at. They weren't at Daiso, and they weren't at 99 Ranch. So then we had to go to Michael's.
Yes, we had to go on a journey to deliver the original
For
experience.
the doilies, yes.
Okay, so we got that on. Now it is ganache time.
So, Lori, if the info on dead cakes is sparse because people are dying to know.
You bore witness to this with me. We both experienced it. We both had to.
Sorry, everyone. Always now.
So I like this consistency. It's got a little bit of run to it, but not too much. So I am going to get a little spoon, actually. So this is actually also really silly. I recommend using a spoon for getting it to run on this cake because it's so small. What I'm using is actually a scientific scoop for measuring small grams of powders and things. I stole this from work a while ago.
Exactly like the scoop you used to scoop matcha powder at tea ceremonies.
Yeah.
It looks exactly the same.
I'm just using it because it's small, so I'm going to be able to scoop a really controlled amount of ganache into just what I want. You could also put this in a piping bag and snip the tip really small, but I personally actually found I had more control using the spoon. So frozen cake, ganache ready. I'm just getting a little bit here, so you can see. And I think
A scoopula.
Yes,
Exactly.
And testing an area that people aren't going to see first to see the consistency.
Not the presentation side, the back side.
So I'm going to do this right on the edge here, and I'm going to make a straight line. And then some of it's going to drip on its own. And then I'm just going to push it a little bit to let it drip the rest of the way.
Looks good.
Yeah. So again, the freezing the cake helps because your ganache is going to set more easily. So there you go. Just going to go around, make a straight line first, and then wherever you want there to be a drip, just stop there, let it run off your spoon, and it'll drip down. So we're going to go around and do the edges first, and then we'll do the top. And if you're finding it's not running, then you can always just give it a little shove, just nudge it over. And this is fun because you can kind of decide how much dripping. What is your preferred amount of decadence? This, I think, is like a really fun meeting place also between like two of the bigger trends I feel I still see on baking videos, like on Instagram things. It's like coffin cakes. I don't know if that's just me in the goth sphere, just seeing a lot of coffin cakes.
Maybe a little bit.
And just
But
being
drip
very
cakes
happy.
were really big a couple of years ago.
And they're still really popular because there's something about it. I think it's fun, it's easy to do.
It like
and it
feels like decadent, but it also feels like not like overly like stuffy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like super like highbrow or whatever. It's like, but then the new trend of doing these really kind of old fashioned with lots of fancy piping tips and stuff,
love it.
which has recently come back into style, which I'm obsessed with. I always loved cakes that looks like that, but it was always like, we're gonna do, you know, the drip thing, and then like we're gonna do like a hem of like sprinkles or whatever. And I'm like, that's cute or whatever. But what if I want like 800 different types of piping tips and like flowers on it? Like, come on.
I love that buttercream has come
their
back into
resurgence.
fashion.
Yeah. One of the things with people being like stuck inside and everyone is into like breads and stuff, now they're like piping tips.
Yeah. People have moved on to other things.
Yeah.
So I've gone around here. I'm gonna, sorry, I heard my alarm go off on my phone. That's a reminder I set for myself.
Looks good, looks good.
All right, now that the instructions out of the way, gonna continue along here. So yeah, I found when I was looking up tips on how to do a drip on the smaller size cake, someone recommended a spoon, and I was like, spoon, huh? Okay. I was kind of skeptical, but it really does give you way more control. Because you're just working with a smaller amount versus putting it in a piping bag. If your consistency is runnier, it's really hard to get it exactly where you want it because it's all just going to want to run out of the bag. So again, just make a little line and push.
The chat is reminding everyone that if you have time, please fill out our panel feedback form, and the link is listed below. So we would love to hear any feedback that you guys have for us. So please, if you have time, go ahead and follow that link and give us your feedback.
We would certainly appreciate it. I'm going to try to speed along a little bit here.
15 minutes.
Doing good.
Doing good.
Forever.
It's good that we started early.
There's our cookies.
There's our cookies. I'm going to do a spin.
Yes. It's always spatial awareness when baking a petticoat.
Oh, they look good. Yeah, we got a couple of decent ones.
Nice, nice, nice.
And while Ori is doing that, I'm going to go ahead and see if I'm going to prep the wrapping.
Oh, yes.
See if we might have time to wrap the cookies.
So I've got this drip all on the edges now, and I'm just going to pour ganache onto the top and smooth it out. So that is why you really don't need top buttercream to be perfect here. And I'm just going to push it close to the edges, but not running over because I'm not trying to add more to that grip. But if it does run over, that's also not the end of the world, saying it was intentional. Okay, so we have our ganache, and now this is going to go back into the freezer for a few minutes, just to let that ganache set, because it's going to be so much easier to pipe on top of this when it is not fluid, trust me. So there we are, partway through. Honestly, it's really nice just like that too, though. In the freezer, let's see if I can find space to make this happen.
I'll bring my cookie wrapping situation over here. So we thought about a few different ways to do cookie wrapping, and if you can think of a way that looks best for you, that's also possible. This is actually just freezer paper,
Which is like wax on one side and
paper on the other, because we wanted something waxy so that the oil from the cookies doesn't seep through. It does seep through, but only after several days. You let it sit for a long time, so don't worry about too much about that. And we thought originally that we could print on this side of the freezer paper, but it turns out it actually looks a lot nicer if you just end up gluing. We have one to grab one of those off the fridge for me here.
We even have options.
We have options, yeah.
To different designs of that little poem.
I've got my
chocolate.
That's fine. Got my. We've got our square that has now had the addition of some chocolate on it, but that's fine. We've got our square.
Marshmallow Fluff 95 says, like blood pouring out of a coffin.
Oh,
How fun would it be if you added red food coloring to, like, if you did a milk chocolate ganache and added red food coloring? That would be really fun.
That would be really fun. I grab my foods excited. Okay. So we've got which ones are we doing?
Let's do this one.
Okay. So I'm gonna take our little whatever you call it, our paper with our poem on it. I'm just gonna glue it on. And do you want to grab the
wax?
The wax for me, dear? It should be on the shelf where I left it.
Also, Bay Area K says, I want to lick the cake, just like slurp. Thank you. We're doing our job then. Molly also says, just watching this like, woo, thank you, Molly. Jamie also likes the cake. Good. Glad people appreciate us talking.
So nothing fancy here, just a glue stick and some printer paper. We're really not doing anything fancy.
It looks good, but it's not high level.
No. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap one of our cookies that we had baked earlier, because that's just easier than trying to do a hot cookie. So I'm gonna just go ahead and flip it over, and then we're gonna place our cookie in the center, here as you can get it, and then I'm gonna fold.
You want the black wax?
Yeah, that sounds good. Fold our cookie up, and ideally you might want to leave some time for your glue to dry, but that's all right. And then
maybe I can get some of the heat this week.
Yeah, if you want to just light one of our candles, bring our candelabra over for the aesthetic. And just doing a simple envelope fold. Doesn't have to be fancy again.
Dropping pumpkins over here.
It's fine. I don't think people can see you. No, maybe they can. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Pay no attention.
Pay no attention to the pumpkins in the back. March. Let's just use this. The end of this separates.
Okay. So we've got our nice and folded, sort of. Ta-da.
Little cookie all wrapped up in its home.
Yes. All right. So now, what I think would be the easiest thing to do is if we just chop off a hunk of this and melt it in the little steam guy.
Nice. We have this lovely wax set.
Well, you bought me as a graduation present.
Yeah. So we're happy to find it and use it. So, is it gonna happen?
Yeah. All right. Got our wax.
Careful with the fingers. Do be safe when you're doing this at home. Just keep this up. And if you're using a little scoop like we are, be pretty generous with it because the first time we did it, a lot of it just dried onto the scoop.
Yes. I think that's just specific to like wax for wax seals. It dries extremely quickly, but if you're using like actual candle wax, you might not run into that problem. Although I cannot say that for sure. I'm not a wax expert. I'm gonna melt this. This is riveting.
This is
Riveting entertainment.
Patience. We're getting there, people. You can't see it, but we can see
It's
it.
melting. It's happening.
We have Retro Game Chance's very important content wall. Yes. It's fun too that the wax seal was another way that you could really personalize this too with whatever
Yeah,
stamp.
you could probably use like the deceased wax seal.
Mhm.
I would imagine that would probably be used commonly.
A lot of cherub and cross themes were very common too.
Mm-hmm.
A little for the more morose skulls were also popular.
Okay, this. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and disperse my wax. And then I'm gonna melt this. I'll take it careful. All right. I'm going to press a seal. If you can't summon the flames directly from hell, store-bought is fine. I love that quote. One of my favorite quotes is, if your brain can't make serotonin, store-bought is fine. It's one of my favorite quotes. All right, let's see how we're doing. Yeah, not bad. And there she is.
There she is.
Sealed.
One cookie ready
Sealed-
to deliver.
Sealed for your
invitation.
enjoyment.
We'll set this aside
Yes.
as we finish the cake. While you finish this one for you lovely people.
Yes.
So this is out of the freezer. And now we're going to do a little piped edge just the way we did for the bottom. And again, you want to freeze this so that it's not runny and making your buttercream slide everywhere. And also another tip, see it like that, is try to pipe a little bit closer into the edge. That'll give you a bit more control here too. And if you need to, you can always cut it off with your finger too, is another thing I find useful, just to really keep it in place. The cookies are ready. It's all coming together.
Hot pan. Show the people.
Get
our
'em.
cookies. I'm gonna put these aside to cool. These oven mitts are not. I'm not holding.
They are not, they're very Christmas.
They're very
But
Christmas,
it's
so we're
fine.
gonna put they'll stack. Nobody has to see them.
Okay, and the finishing touch for the cake is the cross. So look for the two widest parts.
Careful. Yes.
Careful.
I can't say that I must say this is in the kitchen. Anyways, yes, the widest parts.
The widest parts of the coffin.
Yes.
And you're gonna pipe one, stop, pull it towards the center. Turn your cake. Other side, pipe, stop, pull it towards the center. So you're gonna have those two little bricks right there, and then pipe straight down to finish your cross. Oh, I'll pull it over in a second. And voila! One finished coffin cake for the people.
Here's our arrangement.
Beautiful.
Our
With 2 minutes left to spare. So here we have for you guys our coffin cake and our funeral biscuits. We hope that you had a really fun time with us again. And yeah, hopefully you guys will try out some of these recipes and you'll like them.
If you make any of these, be sure to tag either Rose Foray or us, or both, not Rose Foray. Mary Kay.
EGL Treats.
Or EGL Treats.
See, we're still thinking about that.
We're still thinking about them. Thank you for watching,
thank you
everybody.
so much. We're so happy that you liked it. Yeah, we had a really fun time with this. This was something that was like really something to fun to look forward to. So thank you guys for tuning in with us.
And be sure to tune in for the next panel, which is going to be
Hawaii,
Hawaii, hosted by
Monty and Pie.
Pie. Yes, so we will be definitely tuning in for that and
Yes.
tucking into these delicious treats.
Yes. So
So happy
enjoy your
Halloween, and thank you for
treats.
watching.
Bye.
Bye.